What if the Ice Age had never happened? Have you ever stopped to think about that? Maybe you wouldn't even be here watching this video. Maybe humans would never have emerged. Or perhaps the rulers of the Earth would be creatures we only know from fossils today, like giant reptiles or predatory birds. This simple question opens the door to a fascinating journey where science and imagination meet. Today, we are going to explore an alternate world, a parallel reality where the planet never experienced the great ice ages. You'll discover how the absence of this event would have transformed everything, from the evolution of species to the future of civilization. And most importantly, you will realize how climate has always shaped the destiny of life, and how it continues to shape our future. Get ready, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see your very own existence. But before diving into this parallel universe, we need to understand what the Ice Age actually was. Contrary to what many people imagine, it wasn't just one frozen, dark period. In fact, there were several glaciations over millions of years, intervals in which enormous ice sheets covered entire continents, reshaping oceans, transforming landscapes, and even sculpting mountains. Imagine vast frozen plains where today we see cities, entire seas dropping in level and revealing lands that allowed animals and humans to migrate. These glacial ages were responsible for carving valleys, forming rivers, and creating natural barriers that still influence where species live today. The extreme cold forced animals to adapt, generating new forms of life and accelerating evolution. It was also this process that allowed the first humans to develop tools, clothing, and survival strategies. Without it, our history would have followed a completely different path. And now that we understand the central role of the Ice Age, we can finally play with imagination. What would have happened if it had simply never existed? In this alternate world, the planet would have taken a very different course. First, the climate. Without glaciations, Earth would have been much more stable, warm, and humid. Tropical forests would have expanded endlessly, covering areas we now know as deserts and savannas. Arid regions like the Sahara could have become massive jungles, full of rivers and life. With greater climatic stability, sea levels would have remained high and constant, reducing land migrations of animals and possibly preventing many species from reaching new continents. Entire ecosystems, like the North American prairies or the Asian steppes, might never have existed. Without these environments, emblematic species such as bison, wild horses, or even wolves might never have appeared. Animals we only know from fossils would also be different. Mammoths, for instance, would never have existed, since they evolved precisely to resist extreme cold. The same applies to the saber-toothed tiger and other creatures adapted to frozen landscapes. On the other hand, without the pressure of glaciations, giant reptiles might have continued to dominate parts of the planet. Imagine crocodiles evolving into even larger versions, or giant lizards taking over the roles of predators that were left to mammals. In this scenario, mammals would not have become the dominant force we know today. The planet's dominance might have been split between giant predatory birds, resilient reptiles, and some groups of mammals adapted to hot, humid climates. This alternate timeline shows that without the Ice Age, the planet would be far less similar to the one we know. But what about us, humans? Where would we fit in a world without ice? To understand that, we need to go back to the very beginning of our evolutionary journey. Early hominids faced a world of constant climate changes. The alternation between intense cold and milder intervals forced migrations, adaptations, and experimentation. It was this struggle against a hostile environment that shaped our intelligence and ability to cooperate. Without the Ice Age, this process might never have happened. Imagine our ancestors living in abundant tropical forests, where food and water were always available. Under these conditions, perhaps we would never have needed to invent complex tools or develop elaborate hunting strategies. Without extreme challenges, the evolutionary pressure to increase intelligence would have been much weaker. Primates might have remained in their comfortable habitats, never giving rise to Homo sapiens. Another intriguing possibility is that a completely different species could have taken on the dominant role. Giant birds, like the ancestors of the moa or terror birds, might have evolved into intelligent predators capable of organizing hunts. Or maybe marine mammals, such as dolphins and orcas, could have expanded their intelligence without competition from humans, becoming the true masters of Earth. In any of these scenarios, we would not be here. It's a powerful reflection. Our existence is not inevitable, but a direct result of the conditions the planet offered. The simple fact that you re-watching this video is the outcome of millions of years of adaptations forced by the cold. Without the Ice Age, humanity itself might never have emerged. But it wasn't just humans that benefited from glacial cycles. The ecosystems we know today also owe their existence to these extreme periods. The rivers that supply millions of people were formed or redirected by glaciers. Mountains sculpted by ice became unique habitats for thousands of species. Large tropical forests, like the Amazon, grew in response to climate changes, expanding and retracting according to glacial cycles. Now, imagine a planet without this dynamic. Habitats would have been less diverse, and consequently, life would have been less varied. Without glaciations, there would be fewer extreme ecosystems like tundras, savannas, or deserts. Earth would have been dominated by vast humid forests, which would limit the diversity of ecological niches. This could mean a more uniform planet, with fewer opportunities for species to differentiate and evolve. In other words, the world would have been more monotonous, and the variety of life forms we know today might not exist. This environmental uniformity would have had a direct impact not only on animals, but also on plants and even on the nutrient cycles that sustain life. Now that we've traveled through this alternate world, it's time to come back to the present. The exercise we just did shows us a clear lesson. Climate shapes the destiny of life. Just as the Ice Age defined our past, today's climate change is shaping our future. The difference is that now we are the main factor. Global warming, driven by our actions, is altering ecosystems at an accelerated pace, melting glaciers, changing ocean currents, and forcing species to adapt or disappear. When we think about what Earth would have been like without the Ice Age, we realize that, in a way, we are creating our own alternate scenario, except this time it's not a what if, but a reality already underway. The future depends on how we deal with this power of transformation. And so, we come to the end of our journey. If the Ice Age had never happened, Earth would be unrecognizable. Humans might not exist, or perhaps another form of life would have taken the lead. This hypothesis teaches us something profound. Nature and climate decide the destiny of life. Today, however, it's us who hold the power to decide the course our planet will take. So, if you enjoyed this reflection, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. And tell me in the comments, which other scenario would you like us to explore? Maybe, what if the dinosaurs had never gone extinct? Or, what if humans could live on Mars? Your idea might be the next video of this journey.